So let's take a look at some loops in Python, and we're going to start with some while loops. So one of the things that while loops can be used for is to basically control the program. Let the user decide when they want to quit. So let's write a while loop that lets a user continue until they quit. All right, so we won't put this in a function. We're just going to leave it out of a function just so we can see how the while loop works. So we're going to have to, again, we need to set our condition so we can actually write this in. So the condition is going to be the user's input. They're going to let us know when they want to quit. So we need to get some user input. Would you like to run the program? And this is just a generic program, so we don't need any more information than that. So, and we need to tell the user kind of what we would like from them. So let's ask them to tell us yes or no, whether or not they would like to run the program. So we're hoping that the user will give us either a yes or a no, a Y or an N, and this is what's going to control the program, but that's going to set it. So let's set up our check. We're going to check our condition, and we're going to say while user input equals a lowercase y, and we'd actually be fine with user input equaling an uppercase y, then that will be true, right? So if they've entered a lowercase y or an uppercase y, they do want to run the program. So we can run the program, and we'll just say, welcome to the program. All right. So, and there'd be normally, of course, there's other code, but we're just going to keep this simple. All right. So now we've checked the condition, we've set the condition, we've checked the condition. So somehow inside of this loop, we need to update our condition, and our condition is this user input. So what we basically need to do is re-get the user input. And this time we can ask them, would you like to run the program again? Yes or no. And this, we can add some little comments here. So here is our update of our condition. So this gives the user an opportunity. If they enter anything besides a lowercase y or an uppercase y, that's going to end the program. This will be false, and the program won't run. So let's see how this works. So would we like to run the program? Yes, welcome to the program. Would you like to run the program again? Capital Y, we can still run it. And as long as we enter a lowercase y or an uppercase y, it's going to continue. When we enter anything else, an N or anything else, the program is going to quit. So this is how we write a while loop that allows the user to continue based on until they decide to quit the program. So this is one way to do it, but instead of using whether it is a lowercase y or an uppercase y, we also could have checked that it's not an N. It's not a lowercase n or an uppercase n. So let's see how we would change that. So let's copy this while here, whoops, and let's comment this out. And let's change this, so instead of checking if they have entered a Y, let's say as long as it is not a lowercase n or UI is not an uppercase N. And there's a slight distinction. So in this case, the only thing that will make the program run is if it is a lowercase y or an uppercase y. In this case, the program will continue to run as long as they don't enter a lowercase n or an uppercase n. So this functions a little bit differently, but these are two different ways you can accomplish a similar goal. So here in this case, would you like to run the program? If I say yes, it will run. If I type in an 8, it will run. If I type in a bunch of garbage, it will run. The only way to quit in this case is uppercase N. Well, that should have made it quit. Hold on. Haha, we get to, so now we've got to change this. This has to be and, because in this case, one of those will be true. You can't both be a this and a this. So it actually won't work with the or condition in this case. So this is really important actually for us to be able to see. So let's try running it again now that we've fixed it. All right. So yes will run, garbage will run, 8 will run, and now we can quit with an uppercase N or a lowercase n. And let me run it just to show you that it will also quit with a lowercase n. So we're down here, lowercase n, and that will allow us to quit out of the program. So these are two examples of how we can use while loops to control a program. And this is really going on in all of the programs that you run. You know, Microsoft Word is basically this loop is running infinitely, and it's listening for you to click the X button or go to File, Quit, and that makes a loop somewhere false, and then the program stops running. So all of our programs that continue to run until you quit out of the program are controlled in the back end somewhere, you know, by a while loop. So while loop's very important for that sort of thing. Another useful thing that we can do a while loop is validate user input. We can essentially trap the user in a loop of entering input until they give us something that we can use. And this is pretty important because, you know, our programs can crash if the user doesn't give us something that we want. For instance, let's say I need the user to give me a number. All right, and I know this is going to be a number, so I want to cast this as a float. Well, at the moment, the user isn't really prevented from giving me something that I can't use and that is going to crash my program. So what I can do is I can validate my input and make sure that they give me something that would be castable as a float. And there are other ways to handle this. There are something called exception handling that you guys will learn more about in CS2. Regular expressions is another way to control user input, especially in a GUI environment, but you can do it in Python as well. What we're going to learn in this class, though, is just using how to use while loops to validate user input. So let's have an example here. So let's say in this case, we know the user has given us some sort of number, and we want to make sure that it's given us a number between 1 and 100. So let's say, and I will show you guys once we get to strings, how to handle validating to make sure they've given you input that you can cast as a float or that you can cast as an integer. So that's just a little bit of a preview of cool stuff that's coming. But at the moment, let's just pretend that the user is going to behave themselves, and they're only going to give us a number that we're going to cast as an integer, and we're going to say enter a number between 1 and 100. So let's say if they don't give us a number between 1 and 100, this is going to break our program. So here's our set condition. We've actually set our user input, and we're going to trap the user. This is kind of like, you know, your kid or your kid's sister has misbehaved, and they have to go to their room until they apologize, and they're stuck in their room until they apologize. They cannot come out until they apologize. The condition is you must apologize to me. So you cannot come out of your room until I get an apology. That's what we're going to do to our users. We're going to trap them in their rooms. They're going to be stuck there until they give us what we're looking for, which is a number between 1 and 100. So if they haven't given us what we want, then in this case, our user input will either be less than 1, it'll be 0, or it will be greater than 100. So if they give us a number that's less than 100, or they give us a number that's greater than 100, we can't use that. We only want a number between 1 and 100. So this is our check condition right here. And now they're trapped. So if they didn't give us something that we want, then we want them to re-give us this input. And we'll say something like, no, number must be between 1 and 100. So they're not getting out of this loop until they give us a number between 1 and 100. So let's see how this works. All right, and it's telling us enter a number between 1 and 100. Okay, so if I give it 0, I'm stuck in the loop. If I give it 101, I'm stuck in the loop. If I give it 10,000, I'm stuck in the loop. If I give it -99, I'm stuck in the loop. As long as I continue to try to give values that are not what I asked for, not what the program has asked for, it's going to trap me in this loop. But the second I give it something between 1 and 100, oh, I have some code down here that I forgot to uncomment from earlier. Let's make sure we got it all. All right. Then it actually let me out of the loop and continued on with the rest of the code. So now that I commented that out, let's go ahead and run this again. So the important part is that, again, -99, 101, I am stuck forever in this loop until I give them something acceptable, and then I'm allowed out of the loop. So this is one of the ways that we can validate input. We can use a while loop to validate input, and we'll see more examples of this. So give it a try, and for instance, this could also control, let's say you're doing a paper, rock, scissors game, and they have to enter P for paper, R for rock, and S for scissors. You can control that. You trap them in as long as they give you anything besides P, R, or S. You trap them in the loop. So this is super handy, and there's a lot of ways to use this to make your programs a little bit more robust. So give it a try, and happy programming.